¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Monday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Monday morning. Howdy, 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 everybody. We do have quite a few things to talk about. Welcome, everybody. I just got out of work, so I'm a little bit tired. But that's okay. We've got plenty to go through today. I think I got everything up here, so let's get this show started. First story of the day. We're just gonna do a little bit of a meme story. To give an update on the pillow guy. Mike Pillow, My Pillow CEO, ordered to face voter fraud defamation suit. So it's definitely going to happen, folks. My Pillow executive Mike Lindell must face a defamation suit filed by a voting machine maker that was falsely accused of participating in a conspiracy to rig the 2020 election against former President Trump. Of course, as we know, till this day, there has yet to be a shred of evidence that this actually happened. So that is the reason why this defamation suit was filed. A federal judge in Minneapolis on Monday denied MyPillow and Lindell's motion to dismiss the suit by Smartmatic. U.S. District Judge Will Helmina Wright said that there was a wealth of information that could have tipped off the defendants that the conspiracy theory was false, including individual state election reports and public statements made by election officials. And yet, they continue to push these conspiracy theories till this very day. Wright said Smartmatic had reasonably alleged that Lindell's false statements about the company were made with actual malice, a key threshold for a defamation claim to survive against a public figure, which under U.S. law includes corporations, because of course, yeah. Lindell blasted this ruling, said he's prepared to prove at trial that his conspiracy theory is factual. Once again, it's been 2 years, folks. Listen, this dude has been saying that the evidence is coming, that there's overwhelming evidence. The evidence is coming. Cyber symposiums. I think he's done several of those. He continues to go on like these fringe right wing places, right wing news organizations. He has his own media thing going on as well, and at no point has he produced a shred of evidence that would support this conspiracy theory. Just hasn't happened. Quote, these judges are making horrific decisions letting these cases move forward. They should have never, said Lindell. They should have never moved forward. It's disgusting. It's a violation of my First Amendment rights. Well, Smartmatic, whose voting machines were only used in LA in 2020, claims that Lindell's conspiracy theory has made its brand synonymous with election fraud in the minds of the members of the public and government officials. A Smartmatic competitor, Dominion Voting, has also sued Lindell as well as other individuals and media companies that spread the conspiracy theory. Lindell last week had his phone seized by the FBI while he was in his car at a Hardee's fast food restaurant in Minnesota, where MyPillow is based. He later said on social media that the warrant for his phone was tied to a probe of a county clerk in Colorado accused of tampering with voting machines. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if this guy ends up being charged with some criminal stuff regarding this election tampering. He told Bloomberg on Monday that he plans to challenge the federal government over the cell phone seizure. So there we have it, folks. Pillow Guy is definitely going to court, and he now has to face the music. Honestly, if this guy gets sued out of existence, that could probably be a good thing. If this guy just ceases to have any relevance or any capability to continue this, because this is just damaging at this point. If he gets sued out of existence, that wouldn't exactly be a bad thing. All right. Samaline the Kind Dragon, how's it going? Howdy, howdy. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. I was just going over the Pillow Guy story. Have a headache from fighting my town people on Facebook today? How about you? Jesus. I'm hanging in there. I just got off work.
Sky high inflation.
Jesus. Speaking of headaches, I'm not ready for this right now. But I'll put it in the back burner for a second. Let's talk about this for a second. Nice democracy you've got there. Shame if something happened to it. The line between imagination and delusion is thin, as Donald Trump's initial reaction to an FBI search at Mar-a-Lago in August demonstrated. In the first days afterward, the former president saw this search as a political gift, not a blow, a chance to really rally his base and put would-be challengers like Ron DeSantis in their place and reconsolidate his eroding position as the leader of the Republican Party. Over time, it has become clear that the FBI's finding reams of top-secret documents at his club is not, in fact, a boon to Trump. Even with the presidential records investigation slowed down by a sympathetic judge, the probe has exacted costs both politically and monetary, including a $3 million prepayment to a lawyer aware of Trump's tendencies to stiff people who provide services. That's a good meme. Nearly every Trump advisor you have ever heard of, plus a few you haven't, have been subpoenaed by the Justice Department in an investigation into election subversion. And the House committee looking into the same matter will turn to public hearings later this month. The New York Attorney General just rejected a settlement offer in an investigation into Trump's businesses, into Trump's business. No single strategy can handle the range of problems Trump faces. With some clever form shopping, he managed to get the FBI investigation into the hands of a judge whom he appointed late in his term. She was confirmed after the 2020 election, and whose ruling have baffled and appalled legal experts. But this is a stalling tactic, not a solution, and not every judge draw will be so lucky. A second strategy is to cry political prosecution, which is good at rallying the minority of the population who already stand behind him, but unlikely to win over those who don't, especially because the claims are so unpersuasive. This brings us to a third gambit: threats. If people pursuing these criminal investigations into his conduct don't back off, you warn someone, not him, mind you, might do something dangerous. In this heads I win, tails you lose logic, the justice system can either exempt Trump from the rule of law or risk someone destroying it by any other means. Yeah, this is a good point, because basically the idea that you can't prosecute Trump, or you can't investigate Trump for potential criminal activity, especially when there's enough probable cause to do search warrants and whatnot, especially after paper trails of months of communications going back and forth with the National Archives. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You can't just not let that slide. Nice democracy you've got here. Same as somebody tried to make it great again. That's funny. In an interview yesterday, the conservative radio host Hugh Hewitt, a Trump critic turned flatterer, asked whether being criminally indicted would dissuade Trump from running for president in 2024. Trump took the answer in a dark direction. Yeah, I think we went over this particular quote. This is just more stochastic terrorism, essentially. I mean, it can't be described any less. Quote, I don't think the people of the United States would stand for it, even though the polling is clear. People are completely fine with Trump being investigated. So I don't know what he's talking about. I think if it happened, I think you'd have problems in this country, the likes of which perhaps we've never seen before. That's a thinly veiled threat. What else are you supposed to gather from this? It's like a mob boss threat. I don't think people of the United States would stand for it. But who's people? Who are these people that you're talking about if the majority of people, A, don't even support you to begin with, B, booted you out of office, see, you have like maybe 25 to 30% support maximum. Who exactly is, quote, the people of the United States here? Because he doesn't have majority support. The implication was clear enough that Hewitt felt the need to throw Trump a preemptive lifeline. You know, the legacy media would say you're attempting to incite violence with that statement. Yeah, like even this guy understands or understood the underlying message that was being done there. I mean, he got the message. That's not inciting, Trump replied. I'm just saying what my opinion is. You know, I'm just saying, you know, stuff and things and words. Okay, buddy. I don't think the people of this country would stand for it. Who is the people of this country if he doesn't even have majority support? But there is no need to believe he's merely making an analytical judgment. Anyone else can see as clearly as Hewitt that what Trump is doing. Right. If the guy even noticed and was like, "Yo, people are going to interpret this as like incitement." No shit. And then he just like doubles down on it. Nice. As the Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, has noted, Trump has commonly used this mob boss. Yeah, this it's exactly what I'm saying. I didn't even read this article. It's exactly like some mob boss shit. Trump commonly uses this mob boss-derived method. He speaks in fluent innuendo and implication, making his desires clear while leaving himself just enough vagueness to be able to smirkingly deny it. Yeah, stochastic terrorism is the word. It would be the word. Like a mafia don's warning, this don's warning serves as a kind of intimidation, trying to make authorities who care a great deal about the government, civil peace, and reputation of their agencies, as Attorney General Merrick Garland clearly does, wonder whether it's really worth enforcing the law against this particular would-be defendant. And yes, it would be. No one is above the law, and if this guy is engaging in some criminal behavior, which, you know, should be to the surprise of nobody, then so be it. I don't think he should be exempt or immune from prosecution or from investigations. These threats might also actually occasion violence. Of course. By now, everyone, Trump, Hewitt, you and me, has seen this happen. Sometimes the violence comes from mentally disturbed individuals who think that they're doing what Trump wants. Yes, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's stochastic terrorism, right? That's the whole point. Such as Cesar Sayak, who sent bombs to Trump's critics shortly after before the 2018 midterms. Ricky Walter Schaefer was killed after an attempt to attack an FBI office in Cincinnati just days after the Mar-a-Lago search. Another example would be the guy who was arrested near the Dairy or in the Dairy Queen. He was like wearing a clown head thingy, not like a clown wig. There we go, clown wig, and he was wearing, you know, bizarre stuff, and he said that he wanted to restore President Trump King, and would be willing to roadblocks however many Democrats / liberals to make that happen. He was found with multiple firearms and ammunition. Other times, the violence comes from Trump backers who simply listen to what he says, the kind of people who slug protesters at campaign rallies after he waxed nostalgic for the, quote, good old days of rough treatment and offered to pay legal bills. That's right. Or those who stormed the Capitol on the January 6th insurrection after Trump called on them to fight like hell. Yeah, like these kind of, this language, fight like hell, save your country, save America, or whatever BS. Yeah, this is all stochastic terrorism. Yeah, no doubt about it. If there was a time where Trump didn't know how people would respond when he made these veiled threats, it has passed. He understands. He understood from the beginning. Like, that was his whole spiel when he was campaigning originally, even beforehand, even before he won the original 2016 election. Um, that was his whole thing from beginning, from the beginning. He understands now and does it anyways. Yeah, he knew from the beginning. Like, okay, his persistence also helps show. Hold on, folks. Got like stuff on my mic. Okay. His persistence also shows why. Also helps show why his claim that his extortions on January 6th were not incitement and are not to be believed. This very real menace also makes Trump's threats ultimately self-defeating. When he speaks this way, or when he embraces QAnon, or whatever fringe view he happens to be espousing at this moment, it riles up his backers, but it also drives away voters. He needs to be a viable political force. Okay. This means the threats are unlikely to be Trump's salvation, even though they could inflict real harm on American democracy. He seems to not care. Obviously, he doesn't. He doesn't care. In fact, he's banking on it, right? Because, like, if he can't win in a free and fair election, then turning to his supporters and turning to his supporters, giving them gasoline and start talking about how awesome, matches are. That's literally what he's done. Yeah, we talked about the Mike Lindell story. I saw that one. So yes, I do agree that Trump continues to this day to engage in stochastic terrorism. 100%. All right, let's talk about the railroad strike. There was a lot of people who were saying to exercise caution when it came to this because, well, the deal that the White House had struck wasn't ratified yet. The White House brokered agreement to avert a railroad strike has the potential to fall apart, threatening widespread economic disruption right before the midterm elections. Railroad workers are set to vote on the tentative deal reached between the unions and railroads Thursday morning. If any of the 12 rail unions fail to ratify the new contract, nearly 125,000 rail workers could be headed for a strike. That is a massive strike, folks. Gluttonous Machina, want to be scared? They made Trump a religion. Can you send that to me by whispers, please? Because, I mean, I need to see that. Please. Send it to me. This agreement would mandate two-person crews cap healthcare costs, and allow workers to take time off from medical appointments and other scheduled events without being penalized. All key concessions won by unions. Nice. Cool. The deal also provides 24% raise over 5 years, back pay and cash bonuses similar to terms offered by the White House appointed a presidential emergency board last month. But nearly 36 hours after the agreement was announced, rail workers said they still didn't have concrete details on sick leave and voluntary assigned days off. That raised some doubts about just how strong the new contract language is. Right, I mean, like, the real crux of this whole thing isn't the pay. The real whole crux of this was the working conditions, the time off. That was it. If you don't fix that, if you don't solve that issue, the strike is on. You're not going to have a deal. If you don't make sure that you take care of this over here, like the time off and the way the scheduling is worked out, you're not going to have a done deal. Time to figure out how to whisper someone's name who I don't see in chat. Here, what if I just do this? There we go. Now my name's in chat. Hey Bond, how's it going? No problem. Thank you for bringing this up. Just send it over. I hope they strike and get everything and more. So many places need to do this. Oh yeah. Good to see you. Thank you so much. Good to see you. All right, we got to check this out. It has been a day and a century. Well, howdy, howdy. Okay. Ron Kaminakaw, an organizer at the Workers United, which represents rank-and-file railroaders, said that there's a lot of anger and confusion and hostility towards the new agreement, which many workers feel is intentionally vague. That's not good. Workers are pissed off, and this time we actually have a lot of leverage, said locomotive engineer at Norfolk Southern, who asked to remain anonymous for fear of retaliation. I know I'm not going to accept anything less than what we deserve. Good. Based. The two largest rail unions warned during negotiations that their members wouldn't approve a contract that doesn't call outrage over unpredictable scheduling, unsafe working conditions, and lack of sick leave. Right. So, like, this idea that you can just, like, say, oh, yeah, we're just gonna, give you more money and, like, just shut up. That's not gonna cut it. That's not the reason why these workers are pissed off. They're pissed off because of this exact reason. Garbage scheduling, unsafe working conditions, and lack of sick leave. That's it. Fix that. That's not like even necessarily a hard thing to do. That should be like par for the course. That should just be standard procedure. For the strike threat to end, workers would need to feel that the proposed contract is far stronger than the deal offered by the PEB. A survey of rail workers at the Smart Transportation Division found that nearly 8 in 10 would have voted to reject this contract. Jesus Christ. Exactly. Why are the people that work themselves to death in the factory so sad? I just can't quite put my finger on it. I mean, like, I asked if they wanted more money. Another dilemma is that the tentative agreement reached on Thursday only applies to SMART and the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen, the two largest rail unions, but not the other unions that agreed to contracts based on the less worker-friendly PEB guidance. Jesus Christ. Those included nearly 5,000 rail workers at the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers who voted to reject the PEB contract and authorize a strike last week. The union said it would resume negotiations this week and hold off a strike until at least September 29th. 10 days. Vote counting is certain to drag into October, potentially setting up a key deadline at the height of election season. Robert Bruno, professor of labor and employment relation at the University of Illinois, predicted that the deal will ultimately pass with a sizable number of no votes. I would be surprised if the bargaining committee misread what the rank and file would support. That doesn't mean that it will pass with supermajorities. That will signal a level of continuing grievance on the part of the membership. It wouldn't surprise me if a fairly substantial number of members voted no, in part because of how genuinely abused they feel. Yeah, I mean, given like the accounts that we've heard from the rail workers themselves, it is not unconscionable. If they don't, they will hand the Senate and Congress to the Republicans, and they will be really cucked for years. That's not like then they should just figure out a way to make these companies figure this out. It's not on the workers. They should strike whenever they feel necessary to strike, because otherwise they don't get the goods. Sorry. If you can't make this shit work, if you can't tell these companies, these corporations to be like, listen, bro, these people, the main grievance that these people have is better working conditions, better scheduling, and paid sick leave, okay, without penalties. That's it. All of these can be fixed like right away, right? These aren't things that are like super hard to fix. These things, these grievances that these workers are having, isn't exactly like that hard to fix. It isn't a big ask. So yeah. Also, the smart thing to do would be to support the strikes. Generally speaking, Americans want to see action and do something. Yeah, literally anything. Then the Democrats should then the Democratic Party should put more pressure on these companies to make shit happen, because that's not on the Democrats, or sorry, that's not on the that's not even like on necessarily the Congress. What they can do is put public pressure on these companies, on these rail companies, to figure it out. That's what they can do. What Joe Biden should be doing is going out on like PR campaigns and be like, listen, you've got 125,000 workers about to strike. You need to figure something out now. Other than that, I think that's the extent of what they can actually do, unless they pass more regulations. I got friends and family and neighbors. I feel brainwashed. It shouldn't be normal to work so hard every day and completely exhausted for not even a living wage. It's so frustrating. Yeah, I agree. And like, honestly, the railroad workers have been dealing with this for so long that it's really up to the companies. It's really up to the companies. Bruno also said that the fact that sick leave and voluntary assigned days off are sticking points and not wages that may inspire no votes from workers. Usually there's a kind of way to figure out money. It's very often issues that go to respect and go to treatment, working autonomy, worker ability to have some control over their life. I think it reflects just how much power employers have, even under a collective bargaining agreement. A strike would shut down the U.S. railroad system, which carries nearly a third of the nation's freight, shutting down large portions of the economy. Enormous amounts of food, fuel, and other key commodities that would have no way to reach their destination. Damn, maybe these rail companies should figure it out. That sounds like a problem for the railroad companies, because like then the next question would be like, yeah, if these workers strike, whose fault is it? It's the corporations. If the corporations. No, it's not on the workers. It's on the companies. If the workers don't feel like they're being treated correctly, and if the workers feel like they're getting shafted by a shitty agreement that they don't agree with, that's not on them. That's on the corporations. Why would you defend the corporations? That doesn't make any sense. What? And like furthermore, I don't think that like people should avoid strikes because of certain X, Y, or Z. Because then what's the next argument? Like, are we just not like, are the workers not supposed to strike? Because then there's going to be like a 2024 presidential election after the midterm. Like campaign is going to start up for the presidential election. So we can't tell them to strike then. What's the deal? The anger should be directed at the corporations. If this deal falls through because the workers don't feel like they're being treated correctly, that's on the corporations. That's the people who should be, who you should be angry at. Okay? Not the workers. You should be angry at the corporations. Honestly, like, I don't even know, like, how much we can even, like, attribute to, like, Joe Biden here. Honestly, the anger should be at the corporations. We have a saying here, softly, softly, catchy. I have no idea what that even means. But my point being is, like, if workers are tired of being treated like crap, and these corporations aren't willing to alleviate conditions, then that's on them. That's on the corporations. Enormous amounts of food, fuel, and other key commodities would have no way to reach their destination. The potential further... Imagine like food and fuel in the same sentence as commodities. That's a good meme. The potential for further disruption to the nation's fragile supply chain came at a terrible time for Democrats looking to hold on to the majority in Congress in the upcoming midterms. There's a sense of dread among some railroad workers that Congress, not workers, will ultimately decide on the next rail contract if they vote down the newest agreement. Senate Democrats on Wednesday blocked the GOP resolution that would have forced unions to accept these PEB terms, arguing that negotiators should be given more time. But Speaker Pelosi said on Thursday that Democrats were ready with a resolution to block a railroad shutdown if negotiations collapsed. She didn't indicate whether the bill would impose a new contract, appoint arbiters, or simply prevent a walkout. Thankfully, this action may not be necessary. If negotiations collapse, it could bode poorly for Biden, who often touts that he is the most pro-union president in the U.S. history. I don't know about U.S. history, but okay, that's kind of a big claim. Biden's call into negotiations at 9 p.m. Biden's call into negotiations at 9 p.m. on Thursday to say a shutdown on the railway was unacceptable came just hours after a tentative deal was struck. He received credit from both sides of the talk. This is an important test for the Biden administration's commitment not just to labor, but to protect the middle-class job and workers. If the company's position is essentially that it wants to keep workers on impossible schedules that take a toll on their health, family life, and emotional well-being just in order to not lessen what already healthy profits, I think that's exactly what the kind of problem that Biden promised to solve. Right. It's the wrong time, just wait a bit, it doesn't work. It's always the wrong time if you wait, 30 years pass and nothing changes. Correct, the unions should announce a strike for mid-November now and say that they will not strike if employers change by then. No, employers must adapt the working conditions now or they'll have a strike on their hands and it's their fault. Period. If these railroad companies do not want to play ball now, then they're telling them that, oh, just wait until... Fuck them, honestly. Fuck these railroad companies. They're making record profits and are shafting workers. You can't put this on the workers. Like, if you're gonna be mad at somebody, be mad at the corporations. They're the ones who are driving these people, are grinding these people to a pulp with horrible scheduling, penalties for trying to take time off, or no sick days, or whatever it is that they're pissed off about. If these are the conditions and they can't mediate this, even though they have healthy profits, then honestly, fuck these railroad companies. Sorry. Be mad at them. Can't be mad at the workers. You have to be mad at the companies. If they properly staffed, they could offer PTO and pay better. True. They'll need to hold off for 50 days. Well, listen, just send your grievances to the railroad companies, okay? Tell them that. Besides, averting this strike does not automatically mean that there's going to be a massive, like, whopping majority in the Senate or the House. If anything, it would be all the more reason why Joe Biden should be putting public pressure on these companies. If anything, that makes my argument even stronger. Joe Biden needs to be putting more public pressure on these companies to give the workers what they want. That's it. You can't blame the workers here. Only the corporations. If you have some grievances, send it out to the railroad companies. Okay? Not to the workers. If the issue is here that, oh, well, it's a political thing. If Joe Biden can get this done, then it's going to be a good thing. Okay, if so, then Joe Biden should be out there putting as much public pressure on these corporations to give the workers what they want so that they don't strike. Easy peasy, my friend. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. Echo Wrestler Dragon, how's it going? It's that simple. They're doing a GOP a big favor right now. They should act in unison in 50 days. Nope. Joe Biden can fix this by saying that the corporations need to fix whatever the workers are asking for, and that's it. The reality is products and goods have been stopped regardless of the strike, which will hurt the economy no matter what. And two, most workers live hundreds of miles from the rail, so by the time they get home, they only have 20 hours of free time, and then basically they have to head back to work. Yeah, but if there's like an actual strike, I think that would be pretty. That would deliver a pretty big blow. Which again, the railroad companies can stop this. It's on the railroad companies. If you think that this is the case, Cosmic Seeking, then all the more reason why Joe Biden should be putting public pressure on these companies to give the workers what they need. That's it. How do you think 125,000 railroad workers are going to feel if the president comes out with like ads or with like a pressure campaign saying that the president of the United States stands behind them and is urging the corporations to give these workers, what they want? How do you think how do you think that's going to look? How awesome would that messaging be if you see a bunch of like public pressure from the Biden administration? How do you think those like workers are going to feel, and how do you think the image is going to look on a national level if Joe Biden's out there saying, hey, listen, assholes, give the workers what they need and fuck off. You have like you're fine. You're doing fine. You've been having steady profits this whole entire time. You're shafting workers. You're making these people you're making these people work unreasonable shifts. You're not giving them enough paid time off. Fix it. I'm not sure if that's 100% the case. If most workers live hundreds of miles from the rail, I'm not sure if that's the case or not. But nonetheless, I think my point is pretty salient. If you get a Democrat Congress, we do, and the Senate, the fight will favor the unions. But we do. Wait, they're the ones in power right now. The message needs to be these companies need to give the workers what they need, or else. That's it. That's it. Or else the strike happens and it's the company's fault because the company refuses to give workers proper conditions, proper scheduling, proper pay time off, and that's it. It's that simple. There's no there's no other trick to it. You apply public pressure. You tell these fuckers to stop being so greedy, and that's it. Not in 50 days you won't. If they cause trouble, that's damn. Then maybe the Democrats should be stronger in their messaging to get these. Then the Democratic Party needs to be stronger in their messaging. The Democrats have to be stronger in their messaging to pressure on these corporations to give these workers what they need. That's it. That's where you need to. Then that's where you would That's where you would need to file your complaints. It's the corporations, my friend. It's the corporations. All the more reason why the Democratic Party needs to be out there and putting pressure on these corporations. That's it. It's very simple. Well, the Democratic Party should figure that out, Alio. Alright, so this video is sent to us. Let's check it out. This might be a good meme. Not sure.
Yesterday, somebody tweeted at me. I made a discovery yesterday. Somebody tweeted at me. They tweeted a picture of this book called President Donald J. Trump, the Son of Man, the Christ. So
the Son of Man, the Christ. The corporations will cry foul. The Dems pressure them for this close to an election. Wait, what? I don't care. Fuck them. I don't care about the corporations. Fuck them. If they want to cry foul, then they're going to have a strike on their hands. That's not... It's very simple. It's very simple. The corporations are the ones who you need to be angry at. And if they don't want to give the workers the fair shake that they deserve, then fuck them. Not my problem.
I bought the book. This is passed out at Trump rallies, FYI. To understand what their argument is, first we have to talk about who the Son of Man is. Let me lay the argument out. Here's where it starts. Let's just start from the beginning. This is Shane Vaughn. He's a televangelist, and he is one of the leaders of the Trump cult, the new Trump religion that exists. This is an entirely new religion we're dealing with now. Listen to him explain part of the theology of this new religion.
And he wrote down, he wrote a course to New Israel.
Talking about the founding fathers.
New Israel. New Israel. And when they
Jesus
came
Christ.
off the ship, they didn't plant an American flag. They planted the Christian flag. On the soil, they dedicated. George Washington knelt and prayed, dedicated America where the Twin Towers stand.
This looks like kind of like a book review of this book over here called The Son of Man. President Donald J. Trump, The Son of Man, the Christ. Yes, this is actually like a book. This is actually a real book. It's a thing. And here we are.
Is also a brand new religion. Not a denomination, but a new religion. This Shane Vaughn video goes a little bit further. Keep listening. He's going to make an argument for an empirical fact.
Sorry.
And when they came off the ship,
There we go.
they didn't plant an American flag. They planted the Christian flag. On the soil, they dedicated. George Washington knelt and prayed, dedicated America where the Twin Towers stand or stood. That's where America came into covenant with Yahweh, with God, was where the Twin Towers stand.
Wow.
Now, of course, none of that's true, but it is fundamental to their theology. They have to believe that this is true. They have to. This is part of the theology, okay? There's a brand new religion. And when I say religion, I don't mean denomination. I'll leave this up to you. You decide if this is a denomination or not. These people believe that Donald Trump is the new Messiah. I'm going to talk about exactly what that means, but is
Jesus
Christianity
Christ.
a denomination of Judaism? Is Islam a denomination of Judaism? I would
No.
argue that they are their own brand new religion.
Right. Everyone in like normal parlance just kind of understands that these are three different religions. They should include a children's book and make a twofer. True.
And in the same way, I would argue that this is also a brand new religion. Not a denomination, but a new religion. This Shane Vaughn video goes a little bit further.
Yeah, it's a death cult, folks. It's a literal death cult.
Keep listening. He's going to make an argument for an empirical fact that is not true. Listen to this.
That's where it happened. That's where he dedicated our nation in covenant to God. If you will make us a great nation, deliver us from tyranny, then we will serve you. And he gave the nation to God at that point. Every signer of the Declaration of Independence were descendants of the tribes of Israel. We can trace it. We know it.
None of it's true. Nothing that they're saying here is true, but it is all foundational to their belief system. They need these things to be true to arrive at their conclusion that Trump is the new Messiah. Let me play a couple more clips for you. I have an outline here that I wrote late last night. I looked
Jesus.
into this argument that Trump is the Son of Man. That's a foundational belief of this new religion, that Trump is the Son of Man. What is the Son of Man?
Still not downloading. Are we ever gonna play?
Yeah, do you
Oi.
get
Probably heard that saying at some point in our young lives, going to church or whatever. You know, Jesus being the Son of Man. That's the claim generally.
Yeah,
What is the Son of
anti-Christ, I'm
Man?
telling you,
There
true.
is a historian, a biblical historian named Bart Ehrman. He knows what he's talking about. He was like a hardcore Christian, and he went to college in a PhD program to prove that the Bible is the inerrant word of God. And by the time he got to the end of it, he realized that it's not. But that's neither here nor there. He knows what he's talking about. He's really, really intelligent and well-informed. And he wrote a post on his airmanblog.org thing about Jesus and what the Son of Man is, okay? So let's just read a little bit of it to give you an idea of what the Son of Man is and why these people would call Donald Trump the Son of Man and why it would matter. Question. In Mark 8:27-28, Jesus asks his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" Mark, by the by, was the first gospel written. It is like the original source for some of the other gospels, including Matthew. So it was the very first one. Jesus says, "Who do people say that I am?" And they reply that different people think he's John the Baptist, Elijah, or one of the prophets. Jesus then follows up with the key question, "But who do you say that I am?" And Peter replies, "You are the Christ." So Christ is another word for Messiah, right? And Messiah is somebody who's going to fulfill a covenant between Yahweh and the nation, basically. Yeah, a Messiah is somebody who brings Yahweh and the country together. So when you hear the word Christ or Messiah, That's what it's about. But Son of Man has its own different, distinct meaning we'll get
Not
to
a
in
cult,
second.
by the way.
When Luke tells a story, Luke keeps the verbal back and forth almost the same, although when Peter replies, he is a bit more specific. The Christ of God. Was there another kind of Christ? Matthew's version is a bit different, though. Jesus asks, who do people say the Son of Man is? Okay, that's different from who do people say that I am. Matthew was written after Mark was written, and Matthew used Mark as a source. We'll get to the origins of the term Son of Man in a second. Just keep reading. The disciples reply in much the same way, although in addition to John the Baptist and Elijah, they also say that some people think he's Jeremiah. And Jesus replies again, but who do you say that I am? And Peter replies, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Matthew adds more at that point. So is Matthew having Jesus ask two different questions, who is the Son of Man and who am I? Or is Matthew trying to have Jesus refer to himself in this passage as the Son of Man? In fact, is Matthew equating Jesus, the Son of Man, and the Son of God as all the same person in this passage? Or is he differentiating between Jesus and the Son of Man? He obviously tweaked a passage for some purpose. Like I said, Matthew was written after Mark and used Mark as a source. So Matthew rephrases it to make Jesus look like the Son of Man. Though originally, when the conversation
Oh my
took
God.
place, there's no reason to think that Jesus believed that he was the Son of Man. There's some debate in the Christian
this is
community.
why I don't do
Not a whole lot
religion.
of debate. It's mostly philosophical more than theological. Okay, so this is Bart Ehrman's response. In my previous posts, I've laid out the views I have about Jesus and the Son of Man and some of the reasons I have them. It turns out to be a terrifically complicated matter. There are entire books devoted just to this one issue. What was Jesus' view of the Son of Man? Written by scholars with different understandings. The view I reached toward the end of my PhD work, it's one of the standard views that's been around since the end of the 19th century, was very, very different from the one I had before, but it's the view I still have, though I understand it much more fully now. To wit, here are the points
Could've
about
kept it a
the Son
bit
of
shorter,
Man, okay?
maybe.
Jesus
But
did use
yeah,
the
this is
term
why I don't
Son
do
of Man
religion.
as a central part of his message. In doing so, he's referring to a cosmic judge of the earth who would come at the end of history to bring a cataclysmic end to the world as we know it, to destroy all the evil forces in the world that are opposed to God and that are
It's
making
the end
life
of the
miserable for his
world
people.
as
So
we know
most
it.
religions theologically believe that Jesus is the Son of Man and the Son of God. They're two different entities. The Son of Man is mentioned in the Old Testament. I think
Oh,
the book
God.
of Jeremiah and the book of Ezekiel and Daniel, maybe. I don't remember which ones exactly. When Jesus came to earth, he implied that he's the Son of God and the Son of Man. The Son of Man in the Old Testament has a specific role to play in prophecy. The Son of Man is expected to come to earth right before Armageddon and take control of Israel and spark Armageddon as the leader. So most Christians believe that Jesus is coming back, right? When Jesus comes back, he will be coming in the role of Son of Man.
Yeah.
He's already fulfilled the role of Son of God and Savior. When he comes to earth again, he will be Son of Man. Here's where Trump comes into this. They believe Trump is the Son of Man. They believe that Jesus fulfilled his role as Son of God, Messiah number one. They think that America is in a new covenant with Yahweh, New Israel. And Trump is the Messiah of New Israel.
Right.
The
This is incredibly dangerous. This is a death cult.
Son of Man. The reason that the Trump cult believes Jesus can't be the Son of Man is because he never led the nation of Israel. That is a precondition for being the Son of Man. You have to be the leader of the nation.
Ah!
Dip, dunk, or drizzle.
Oi! How many ants are in this thing?
Trump was the leader of the nation. So here's how the theology goes. Brand new religion, okay? Jesus comes to earth, fulfills his role as Son of God and Savior to mankind. He dies, he goes to heaven. The founding fathers come to America, dedicate it to Yahweh, and enter into a new covenant with him. Trump comes along,
Mm,
becomes
German
the
author.
leader
Gotcha.
of New Israel, or America. And by doing so, becomes the Son of Man, the new Messiah, the Christ. That is the theology packaged into one. It is a brand new religion that exists. They even have their own Bible. They call it the Patriot Bible.
The Patriot
that has
Bible?
the New Testament and the founding documents, Declaration of Independence, Constitution, all that other stuff.
Jesus Christ. It got weird already with John Smith when they started saying Americans are the original natives. And now America is the Holy Land and Moses wrote the Constitution. Ah, yes, all things that happened.
That's where you get images like this. People believe that he is divine. No joke. These people think that Joe Biden has
this is literally true. There are people who, unironically, believe this.
role to play in prophecy too. I'm talking the new Trump religion people, okay? Like, for example, Robin Bullock. Listen to what Robin Bullock here has to say.
Oh yeah, this
is a
guy is just
televangelist, if you're
completely
unfamiliar.
yeah.
Listen to what he has
This guy, Robin Bullock or whatever. This guy's completely he's out
say
there.
about Trump, Obama, and Biden and how they all factor into this new religion.
No, this isn't Mormonism. This is worse.
God didn't like that, Steve.
When the FBI searched Mar-a-Lago for classified documents, what he's talking about. I think this happened sometime around August 8th, 2022 or something. The FBI searched Mar-a-Lago for classified documents.
That didn't set well in heaven. It didn't set well at all when they did that. You know, the scripture says, touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm. Well, they touched his anointing when they did that, his anointed, because Trump is David. He's David. He began to be David.
Jesus.
When all of this, when Barack Obama's seal fell off of his podium, he began to take.
I remember that.
Yeah.
It fell off and rolled away or something.
It sure did. It sure did. And see, Obama would love to be the Antichrist. He would love to be the anointed one.
What?
Because they named him that, remember?
Yeah.
But he's not. And this will be, he's not, he can't be now. Because he is now Gog. In the spirit, he became Gog.
So they believe that Obama and Biden and Trump have very influential, significant roles to play in Bible prophecy. They think that Trump is the new Messiah. A minute ago, we watched a clip of Shane Vaughn explaining how he believed that America was in a new covenant with Yahweh and is effectively the new Israel, right? Listen to him describe Donald Trump's connection to all of this.
What is the prophetic seal that Yahweh placed upon Donald Trump? And
Oh no,
upon
these are
his-
worse than both
his
of those.
true people?
These are worse than
It is
creationists or flat earthers.
Supernatural prosperity and blessings. That's the prophetic seal. The ring of God, when he touches your life, there will be unparalleled blessings that will come into your life that you didn't ask for, you didn't create. You're just anointed for that season.
Damn.
And the evidence
Just
of it
like that.
is on the
Woo!
prosperity of the nation and the people.
Let me just break that down. He believes that America is anointed by God and is in a new covenant with Yahweh.
That's what happens when you close all mental institutions. You also need ad blocker. True.
Donald Trump carries the prophetic seal of the calling of God. He is Joseph. If you are anointed by Yahweh for a specific plan and purpose, you are a Messiah.
That's pretty on the nose. Doesn't get much more on the nose than that, right? He called Donald Trump a Messiah just now. This guy is a televangelist. He's not a nobody, okay? He has a massive following.
Yeshua was the Messiah of mankind, but Donald Trump is the Messiah of America.
There you go. It doesn't get much clearer than that, right? I have more examples, if you can believe it. Here's where the plot thickens, okay? They believe that Biden reversed prophecy, stopped Trump from becoming president intentionally. By doing that, it would delay Armageddon. Trump has to be the political leader of the country, or let me rephrase, the son of man.
No, these people are not. Well, I don't think they're grifters. They might be. These people are just. I think they actually might just really believe that. I think they unironically believe this.
Man has to be the political leader of New Israel for Armageddon to be sparked. The claim is that the Son of Man will come along, become the political leader, and then spark Armageddon. And they believe that Trump was supposed to receive 2 terms and then spark Armageddon. But Biden
Dark
won,
Brandon is so
and they
powerful.
claimed that
He's
Trump was going to
single-handedly
get a second term. They
threatening
believe
destiny
he's going
or
to spark
whatnot.
Armageddon in his second term. So when Biden takes the presidency, in their minds, there's no way that he could have successfully taken the presidency because Trump is the Son of Man. He's the Christ. He's the prophet. He is the Messiah. He's supposed to spark Armageddon in their minds. So
Oi.
Robin Bullock comes along and tells Donald Trump, he's addressing Trump directly. I don't know if Trump's watching this or not, but he's addressing Trump directly and telling him, you need to walk into the White House and take control.
The stage is set. Everything is set. But you're going to have to pray for the rightful president, whether he wants to walk back into this or not. Is it his will? Yes. Is he the president? Yes. That's why he could just walk right back in. And God will supernaturally move things out of the way.
God
Supernaturally.
will supernaturally push things out
Damn.
of the way if you just walk in and take control, because you are supposed to be there. Listen to what he says here.
Don't be concerned about riots. Riots are going to happen whether you come back or not. They're going to happen whether Donald Trump runs for president or is president or walks in the office. The riots are going to happen anyway. Don't worry about all of that. Operate in the power of God and let him pave your way. One step toward that.
I just can't even with this. It's unfortunately the realities
So
that
this
we
is
live
him
in.
saying, walk into the White House and take control. One step in that direction, and God will push things out of the way supernaturally. You just have to walk in and put on the mantle of the Son of Man anointing.
And I'm going to tell the president something. Donald John Trump, you were anointed from the day you were born to be president.
Jesus.
And you were brought on the scene for such a time as this.
They believe him to be the Son of Man. They believe him to be the Messiah. Seriously, this is a new religion. Like Christianity is a denomination of Judaism, or Islam is a denomination of Judaism. This is a new offshoot, a new
The scary part is that millions of people believe this. Oh yeah, 100%.
That's why we heard people saying things like this. This is Roger Stone repeating some of the talking points that he's heard from the evangelical leaders.
Yeah,
Listen
this
to
isn't just like...
We have 2 parties in this country, the patriots and the traitors.
Yeah, but this isn't just like desperation. This is like they actually believe this. This is like a death cult. They actually believe this kind of stuff. And it is dangerous. Yeah, it is effing terrifying. 100%. Like, and these aren't just like fringe elements that kind of just like float around. No, these are very, very influential, or at least have a unnecessarily amount of influence, these people. And it is terrifying.
This is not about Republican and Democrat anymore. This is a struggle between dark and light, between good and evil, between the godly and the godless, and we dare not fail or we step off into 1,000 years of darkness.
That's the point right there. That's the point. This is a battle between good and evil, dark and light. This is a battle between Satan and God in their minds. Donald Trump is a new Messiah, and Joe Biden is supposed to be Gog or the Antichrist
Who's
or
God?
Satan himself.
What the hell is a
I don't
God?
know. I'm not sure what they think he is, but he is reversing prophecy. They believe Biden is setting out to reverse prophecy. Here's another example. Robin Bullock. Again, dude is a televangelist and a part of the Trump religion, the new Trump religion.
And the Lord told me, He said, now the fight has left the heavens and it's in the earth.
It's a
Now,
website
we are
you can
in a
buy video
full-on
games on.
spiritual war.
Yeah, I have good old games.
On the
That's
6th, it was
different.
still in the heavens, but
January 6th. It was in the heavens, but after the 6th, it manifested itself on earth, this spiritual war.
after that day it dropped into the earth. What we would call an administration is not one at all. There is no administration right this moment in the White House.
From the
I'm just
fringes of the
telling you
Bible, something
straight
to do
up.
with
There's not one
Megiddo,
there.
if I remember it
And
right.
You say, well, what are you talking about, Brother Robin? That sounds crazy. Well, I'm about to explain myself. I didn't know I was
Trump
gonna
is
be
afraid of
talking
being
about all
indicted and he
this
has an
today
army. Oh, yeah.
until the Lord said I was.
I mean,
There's not an administration in the
surprised.
White House or in the Capitol. When the war left the heavens and came to the ground, this so-called administration is actually a regime whose sole purpose is to stop a prophecy from coming to pass.
And why did Biden set out to stop a prophecy from coming to pass? Because that prophecy was Armageddon taking place. They believe that Biden stopped Armageddon from happening.
Yeah,
because
this doesn't
Trump
surprise
would
me,
have
Alio.
delivered his people to heaven and saved the world and all of this other stuff. Because he is a new Messiah, Trump is, in their mind.
That's what it is. People say, well, you can't see.
Isn't stopping Armageddon a good thing? No, because they want to be raptured. This is a death cult.
This man is not the president.
This is a death cult. They want Armageddon because that means the rapture happens and they get to go up with God or whatever. Things like climate change, yeah, they actually want this type of stuff. This is a literal death cult, okay? They want Armageddon to happen. They believe that it's a good thing because they'll be raptured. That's what makes them so dangerous. You see, like what's happening with climate change and things like that. They would argue that that's actually a good thing. Absolving themselves of any responsibility at all. This is a death cult.
He's sitting in the seat, but that's not who he is. And now this whole what men are calling an administration is to do nothing. Its sole purpose is to keep the prophecy that the prophets gave that the rightful president would be in office again. And this whole thing is to keep that from happening.
Because if he doesn't stop Trump from being in office, the Son of Man, the Messiah, then he will deliver God's people.
They're not going to go where they think. True.
That's what Biden is trying to prevent in their minds. He's trying to prevent Trump from delivering God's people to heaven. I mean, people have even stopped identifying as Baptist and started identifying as non-denominational. Greg Locke specifically, because they're not Baptist anymore. They have a new belief that Donald Trump is a new Messiah. You can't be Baptist and believe that simultaneously. They have a new Bible, the Patriot Bible, that has the New Testament and the founding documents of America, the Constitution and all the other stuff. Is this a new denomination or is it a new religion? You tell me in the comments or on Twitter at Telltale Atheist. Is this an offshoot of Judaism the same way Christianity is? Or is it an offshoot of Christianity the same way Baptist or Methodist is?
It doesn't matter to me.
I
think
this is a brand new religion. Let me know what you think.
I think it's a death cult. It needs to stop. It needs to stop. It needs to be stopped. This is a freaking death cult. They're gonna be so disappointed if when Trump chokes on a fishback. They formed the Southern Baptist because the Baptist Church said slavery was bad. Damn. Jesus. That is wild. I guess we should just kind of like end that segment with this.
Discipling children is the single most important thing we can do with our lives. They don't have to be your children. Maybe they're going to be your grandchildren. Maybe they'll be your
Indoctrinate
neighbor's
children, folks.
Maybe they'll be other children who you work with in a sports league, in some kind of a musical group, in some kind of an extracurricular activity. Doesn't matter who the children are. Recognize that you can disciple them. You do that through the relationship you build with them. You do that through what you model for them. You do that through what you verbally teach to them. You do that through how you hold them accountable for learning these lessons and living them. Discipling children is the single most important thing we can do with our lives. They don't have to be your children. Maybe they're going to be your grandchildren. Maybe they'll be...
Jesus Christ. Yikes indeed. MTG supports the Southern Baptist 100%. Wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me. All right, let's do this one here. There's been a lot of talk about oh yeah, 100%. Ambon, remember, every accusation is just a confession. The radical left is indoctrinating the kids. There's been a lot of discourse on this, and I think these receipts kind of just you can kind of get a good picture about what exactly, or at least a better picture of what exactly happened here. Migrants flown to Martha's Vineyard on planes chartered by DeSantis received a misleading brochure that promised cash, job placement, and more, lawyers say. Migrants who were flown to Martha's Vineyard as part of an anti-liberal political stunt by Governor Ron DeSantis were given misleading brochures promising cash assistance, job placement, services, and more. According to their lawyers, the Boston-headquartered Lawyers for Civil Rights, which is representing about 30 of the immigrants flown to Martha's Vineyard, shared links to the photos of the brochure via Twitter. Hold on, folks. Here we are. Okay. The group says the migrants received the brochure at some point during the expulsion and relocation from Texas and Florida. The reference to Florida relocation is unclear because the DeSantis office previously confirmed that the planes were chartered to transport 50 migrants from Texas, not Florida. Lawyers for Civil Rights and DeSantis did not immediately respond to a request for comment. NPR previously reported that a woman the migrants identified as Perla promised them work permits in Boston, but links to the brochure photos were posted on Twitter and were reported by Popular Information. I know these people, the lawyers. Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, this is what they posted. Did you see the map of it? It's a joke. This is what they received. And as we can see here, resettlement agencies who resettle refugees under the Match Grant program provide cash assistance and in-kind support refugees for an additional 90 days beyond the normal 30-day period. Employment for refugees cash assistance, refugee employment services, assistance with housing. Yeah, so the lawyers came with receipts. It's not like they weren't just making this stuff up. It seems to me that this was a political stunt, using these people as political pawns, lying to them, giving them these bogus brochures promising things that obviously aren't true. I'm not even sure how this would even work. Do we even have a refugee cash assistance program? Is that even a thing? I don't even know if that's even, like, legit. I don't even know if any of this is real. Does Massachusetts even have these programs available? I found the video. Send it to me.
Maybe I heard on the video that they were telling me he sent his own video.
Hello.
Ah,
I'm coming.
Jesus.
To get all this, so he could use it for his own advantage. And then his paid for political spokesperson was immediately taking credit, if you want to call it credit, for doing something that was clearly a political stunt.
DeSantis sent a videographer with the migrants to capture the reactions of the Democrats who he was trying to screw over. If there was any doubt about the extent to which this stunt was solely intended to hurt everyone involved, from the migrants themselves to the residents who received them, that should be put to rest. But remember, pro-life. Consider too, Republicans will say, see how mad...
Yeah, like, wait a minute. He had a whole, like, He had a whole, like, videography crew? What?
Hi, Mark Barden at Sandy Hook Promise here. When the gunman shot his way into
arrived last night, make it clear that they were lied to again and again and fraudulently induced to board the planes. They were told there was a surprise present for them and that there would be jobs.
Yeah, like, that's a good point. Like, these stunts, these political stunts, of getting people to places where obviously they're not supposed to be, I'm sure there have been, I'm sure the possibility of these folks missing, like, their actual hearings, is absolutely a plausible thing, maybe even on purpose. That's what they mentioned in this video. Okay. U-Block to solve the sad problem. Yeah, I know people have been getting on me about that, but it's become kind of a meme now. It's part of the charm, I guess. Oh God, sorry. All right, let's just do this.
Live last night make it clear that they were lied to again and again and fraudulently induced to board the planes. They were told there was a surprise present for them and that there would be jobs and housing awaiting for them when they arrived. This was obviously a sadistic lie. Not only did those responsible for this stunt...
You said that you were, Alio, you said that you knew that the actual lawyers of this, you said that you actually know the lawyers or you're familiar with these people. Can you corroborate this, that like, can you corroborate this, this about, how these people were like lied to? Because there's been like a lot of nonsense coming in from like, obviously like the right, about this, and like, okay, so yeah, you can corroborate this. Wow. MTG and Trump made big things of this at the Trump rally. I'm sure it's all part of a political stunt. But the goal is here cruelty.
Know that there was no housing and no employment awaiting the migrants. They also very intentionally chose not to call ahead to any single office authority on Martha's Vineyard so that even the most basic human needs arrangements could be made. Ensuring that no help awaited the migrants at all was the entire point. They were provided with a cartoonishly simple map of Martha's Vineyard and the United States and a brief brochure containing snippets from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts website and instructions to change their address with USCIS when they relocated. This is especially troubling as anyone with even the most basic understanding of the immigration proceedings knows that USCIS was not the agency with whom the migrants would have to record their addresses and has nothing to do with their cases in any way. It is clear that this was an intentional attempt to ensure that these migrants were removed in absentia when they failed to change their address with the proper agency. This was a purposeful derailment designed to prevent people from complying with federal immigration policies. This is problematic because the state should not be interfering with federal immigration policy. Before they boarded the planes, the migrants were processed by agents of the Department of Homeland Security, who listed falsified addresses on the migrants' paperwork.
Wow.
Agents apparently chose random homeless shelters all across the country, from Washington to Florida, to list the migrants' mailing addresses, even when told by the migrants that they had no address in the U.S. According to the paperwork provided to them, the migrants are required to check in with ICE office nearest to the fake address chosen for them by DHS or be permanently removed from the United States, with some required to check in as early as this coming Monday. It could not be clearer that this is an attempt to ensure that these people are ordered removed, even as they try as hard as they can to comply with the instructions provided to them. There is no other reason to list as someone's mailing address a homeless shelter in Tacoma, Washington, when they ship him to Massachusetts. It is sickeningly cruel, throwing obstacles in the way of people fleeing violence and oppression, some of whom walked through 10 countries in the hopes of finding safety.
This is wild to me. From Massachusetts.com website, refugee cash assistance looking for financial. RCA provides a monthly grant to eligible participants. The grant amount is determined by the MRP guidelines. Are you eligible? Okay, so this is true. Okay. Okay, so this is true.
It's shameful and inhuman. Many of these victims were deprived of medical care despite clear existing injuries. These are human beings who were deprived of basic human rights. To the people who find themselves, these wonderful people who find themselves plane wrecked on our island, I have a message for all of them. You are not alone. We have your backs. We are proud to be here for you. And we've got you. If the intention of those who perpetrated this horrendous act was to create a crisis, you have failed. Their demeanor is kind, their demeanor is grateful, and their demeanor is just that they want to be doing everything right. Their biggest concern today is that many of them have dates to appear in San Antonio Monday morning, Tacoma, Washington Monday morning, Washington, D.C. Monday morning. You tell me how that's possible.
We will be exploring all civil and criminal legal options to hold the perpetrators accountable and to prevent this injustice from repeating itself.
Nothing quite like Ron DeSantis trying to score some cheap political win at the expense of migrants, only to now be facing litigation as attorneys explore all civil and criminal legal options. Hope the 24-hour news cycle was worth it. Just so we're clear about what happened here, Governor DeSantis from Florida, a member of the Republican Party, the party of family values, the party of Jesus and Christianity, decided to use human beings as political props and ship 50 migrants to Martha's Vineyard to show just how horrible it would be to have to endure these migrants. And what happened? Well, those godless heathens from Deep Blue, Massachusetts welcomed those migrants with open arms, and this is what it looked like.
Thank you.
It may be cosmic seeking. I don't know how the rules are for that, but maybe. Republicans are going to fail with stunts like this.
Maybe all those folks cheering on the use of migrants as political props who have the word Christian in their Twitter bios should probably take note. And if you had any doubt about the extent to which this was a political ploy meant expressly to exploit these human beings for partisan gain, just listen to Congressman Bill Keating, who represents Martha's Vineyard, about a certain person who was sent along with the migrants.
Actually, it's quite a contrast. You had a Republican governor from Florida and a governor here who was also a Republican. And it was like the tale of two governors. One using public resources rather extravagantly. Evidently, maybe I heard on the Vineyard that they were telling me he sent his own video photographer to get all this, so he could use it for his own advantage. And then his paid for political spokesperson was immediately taking credit, if you want to call it credit, for doing something that was clearly a political stunt.
DeSantis sent a videographer with the migrants to capture the reactions of the Democrats who he was trying to screw over. If there was any doubt about the extent to which this stunt was solely intended to hurt everyone involved, from the migrants themselves to the residents who received them, that should be put to rest. But remember, pro-life. Republicans will say, see how mad you're getting? And this is just 50 migrants, imagine thousands. But here's the difference. Republicans use these people as political props. If the left is angry, it's because the same party that crows about the sanctity of life just lied to human beings to lure them onto a bus in an effort to leave them stranded on a remote island with no social services, and then set themselves up further for failure by giving them incorrect information about changing their addresses in an effort to ensure that ultimately they'd be punished anyway. That's the difference. That's why the left is angry.
The point is cruelty.
Point here was that Republicans tried to hurt everyone involved. And the fact that we have to stand here and explain why that's bad to a political party that beats its chest about being pro-life, pro-human life, goes to show that the GOP does not give a shit about life. They care solely about themselves, their political fortunes, and their team. If you're not a Christian white Republican, you do not matter. You are an obstacle for these people to overcome, trash for them to discard in their own pursuit of power. These Republicans think that sending migrants to liberal cities is some type of a gotcha. I'm sorry, but do you think that New York City doesn't have immigrants? You don't think that Los Angeles is diverse? These are the most multicultural cities in the world, the multicultural bastions of this country. These are cities that not only embrace diversity, but whose culture is born from it. Immigrants are to thank for new music and food and clothing, for doing essential jobs. They comprise between 1/4 and 1/3 of major industries like farming, fishing, construction, textiles, food manufacturing, and hospitality. Jobs that Americans won't do. In 2016 alone, for example, immigrants added $2 trillion to the U.S. GDP and added nearly $500 million to state, local, and federal taxes in 2018, all while not receiving the benefits that Americans receive. As of 2007, 1/4 of all companies are founded by immigrants, and more than 40% of businesses on the Fortune 500 were launched by first or second generation immigrants. Even some of the most uniquely American things came from immigrants. Levi's jeans, Google, donuts, video games, hamburgers, even American cheese. The fact is that our economy wouldn't run without immigrants, and our culture would suffer without immigrants. And I would bet my last dollar that the people whining about immigrants are the same people who enjoy daily the conveniences afforded to them thanks to immigrants. The people who cook their food and clean their facilities and grow their crops and build their buildings. So if they're truly anti-immigration, I'm sure they'd be happy to forego all of the things that immigrants built for them and then report back and see how easy life is without them. So good on the people of Martha's Vineyard for showing all these devout, God-fearing Christians what it means to actually display some of those Christian values. So the next time you see Ron DeSantis or Greg Abbott or whatever other Republicans trying to juice his campaign for president exploit these humans for some cheap political win, maybe ask them to crack open their Bible to Matthew 25:35, where it says, "For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me." Because they would probably have just a little more credibility if they actually displayed some of the values they profess to live by.
Yeah, well, they don't care about any of that. They're not actually principled. Immigration attorney Matt Cameron told the publication that the benefits in the brochure are resettlement benefits for refugees referred by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and authorized to live in the U.S., but they are not available in Massachusetts to the migrants who are still seeking asylum. The Massachusetts Refugee Benefits brochure describes benefits including up to 8 months of cash assistance, job placement, retention, and upgrade services, assistance with housing, food, and clothing, and more. Lawyers for Civil Rights also posted their request to for a federal and Massachusetts criminal investigation into DeSantis' decision to transport the migrants who were moved from Cape Cod for shelter and humanitarian support, according to the governor's office. Our clients were induced to board planes and cross state lines under false pretenses. Individuals working in concert with the Florida governor made numerous false promises to our clients, including of work opportunities, schooling for their children, and immigration assistance in order to induce them to travel. Mid-air, they wrote, the clients learned that they were bound for Martha's Vineyard rather than Boston, and for those who had induced them to travel under these false pretenses disappeared, leaving our clients to learn that the offers of assistance had all been a ruse to exploit them for political purposes. The lawyer said that many of their clients were put up in hotels paid for by those making false representations until there were enough people to fill the planes. They have documentary evidence, including photos that would allow law enforcement to locate alleged perpetrators, as well as documents that their clients were required to sign. This type of conspiracy to deprive our clients of their liberty and civil rights and interfere with federal immigration proceedings must be thoroughly investigated for violations of criminal law. DeSantis said migrants were transported voluntarily and that they knew where they were going because they signed the waiver and were given a map of Martha's Vineyard. Yeah, okay, that's some bullshit. That's some bullshit. I think there's a more sophisticated, for lack of a better word, reason why they would seek to increase immigration in liberal states. There's quite a bit of data which shows that the increased diversity can result in declining levels of trust, or at least amongst whites. And most recent review of said data, with reduced trust, you can amplify the long-term trends of antagonism and by extension support the populist right. All on paper, of course. Who knows if this was in any way considered? No, I don't think this was considered in any way, shape, or form. I think this was a political stunt. Ron DeSantis isn't that intricate. I don't think he's familiar with any of this. I think he just wanted to own the libs, and that's the extent of his logic. Yeah, I think I think that these were applied to UN refugees, although it does highlight the emerging and quite disturbing trend of state versus state behavior that will only amplify in the era of ecological degradation and cultural polarization. We will see in the future instances of states going against each other over things like abortion, movement of people, access to resources, and so on, especially if the movements from south to north continue to increase while climate change, southern states will struggle to absorb and blame northerners for policy lapse. Yeah. That's a good point. Absolutely horrible. Yeah. Like I said, Alio, this is a completely different scenario. So we have a few articles to go through. All right, let's do this one. Federal appeals court upholds controversial Texas social media law. A federal appeals court dealt social media giants a blow on Friday when it upheld a Texas law that seeks to stop platforms from removing posts if the removal can be viewed as a discriminating against a viewpoint. But like, what does that even mean? Discrimination against a viewpoint? Like, I don't know. Nazi ideology is a viewpoint. I don't know. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit ruled that Texas Law HB 20 does not violate First Amendment rights of social media platforms. Tech companies and groups representing them in court have argued that the law is unconstitutional and that platforms have a First Amendment right to not host speech they deem objectionable. Why it matters. If the law goes into effect, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and other social media companies with more than 50 million users will effectively be prevented from enforcing content-related rules on any user postings that can claim to express a political view. Okay. The ruling opens a door for similar laws to be passed by other states unless a future U.S. Supreme Court appeal reverses it. Ha! Unlikely. Social media companies face pressure from the right to censor less and from the left to take down more content to limit the spread of misinformation. Conservatives have been accusing social media companies of content bias for years, driven by a belief that social media rules are unfairly tilted in front of liberal-leaning content. But that's not like actually true. Not at all. Not at all. Obviously, they're casual predictions and have to be taken with a pinch of salt, but I do think that there'll be a decline in trust and subsequent increase in backlash culture in more liberal states in the coming years, only because a lot of things are moving very quickly and society and policy can't keep up, or in the instance of policy, sometimes refuses to keep up. Perhaps that may end up being the case. Texas law has been upheld and rejected by a number of courts already. In May, the Supreme Court blocked it from taking into effect before tossing it back to the Fifth Circuit. A similar law in Florida in May, in a ruling that directly contradicts the Texas ruling, meaning the state will almost certainly have to, meaning the issue will almost certainly be decided by the Supreme Court. The Texas law bars platforms from acting to block, ban, or remove, deplatform, demonetize, deboost, restrict, deny equal access or visibility to, or otherwise discriminate against expression. Individuals and the Texas Attorney General can sue large social media platforms for violations, but you'd have to prove that, right? This sounds like a violation of the freedom of association in the First Amendment. This law? Maybe. Today, we reject the idea that corporations have a freewheeling First Amendment right to censor what people say. Can they ban networks from canceling shows I like too? Yeah. Judge Andrew Stephen Oldman, a nominee of the former President Trump, wrote that the Texas law does not chill speech. If anything, it chills censorship. Oh, I don't know. Every time these people make a accusation, it just ends up being a confession. So I'm not too confident. Critics of the law said it would force platforms to host dangerous and illicit content and fill social media platforms with spam and hate speech. We strongly disagree with the court's decision. Forcing private companies to give equal treatment to all viewpoints on their platform places foreign propaganda and extremism on equal footing with decent internet users and places Americans at risk. Yeah, like, I think that, like, yeah, there is a problem when you give equal footing to unequal things, right? It's like the argument, it's like the scenario where, like, if if you're having a conversation about climate change, you have to have an expert that believes in climate change and then an expert that doesn't. Except that's not an accurate representation, right? You would need 10 experts or 9 experts, and then the one who doesn't believe, and then you got to make sure you put a little Chevron, Shell, and BP logo on the one, right? God bless America and death to America are both viewpoints, and it is unwise and unconstitutional for the state of Texas to compel a private business to treat those as the same. This law won't take effect yet. First, the Fifth Circuit has to issue instructions to the lower court, and a Supreme Court appeal from tech groups is likely. Well, we'll see. Am I the only one who finds constant fear-mongering about foreign propaganda weird? Well, I mean, it happens. It happens. Like with everything, you just gotta read, you gotta have media analysis. House ayes vote on new bipartisan bill to prevent another January 6th. I don't think there's anything from another government any more dangerous than, say, Koch propaganda. Yeah, that's a good point. A bipartisan duo on the January 6th committee rolled out legislation aimed at preventing future attempts to overturn elections. And House leaders are eyeing a vote as early as this week. The Presidential Election Reform Act, unveiled by Liz Cheney, and Zoe Lofgren centers on overhauling the Electoral Count Act, an archaic law that governs the counting of electoral votes, which former President Trump and his allies sought to exploit to stay in power after he lost the 2020 election. This 38-page bill would make it clear the vice president's role in counting votes is merely ministerial and raise the threshold for objecting to electors from one member of the House and the Senate to 1/3 of each chamber. Yeah, but like, just make popular vote. Just make it a popular vote and be done with this. This is all, whatever. It would require governors and states to send electors for Congress for candidates who won the election based on state law prior to election day, according to an official summary, meaning states couldn't change their election rules retroactively after an election. The legislation is expected to be reviewed by the Rules Committee on Tuesday. Last week, Majority Leader Steny Hoyer notified members that the full House might consider the bill this week, which could occur as soon as Wednesday. Our proposal is intended to preserve the rule of law for all future presidential elections by ensuring that self-interested politicians cannot steal from the people the guarantee that our government derives its power from the consent of the governed. Yeah, but by definition, having an electoral college kind of circumvents that, right? Cheney and Lofgren wrote in an opinion piece for the Wall Street Journal, "We look forward to working with our colleagues in the House and Senate towards this goal." The measure takes a different approach than the Senate's version, which is the product of months of bipartisan negotiations and scheduled for a committee markup later this month. For instance, the Senate bill would require 1/5 of each chamber to force a vote to object electors. The Senate is moving toward voting on its bill in the lame duck session between November 8 election and the seating of the new Congress on January 3rd. Unlike the House, which needs only a simple majority to pass, the Senate requires 60 votes to overcome the filibuster. Overcome a filibuster, meaning Democrats would need at least 10 Republican votes to send any bill to President Joe Biden's desk for enactment, which means that's probably not going to happen. Senate Majority Whip Dick Durbin said on Monday that he hadn't reviewed the Cheney-Lofgren bill but endorsed the cause of overhauling election laws. "We should do this in a timely fashion, the sooner the better," adding that the lame duck session is realistic, at least from the Senate perspective, as a time for him to vote. Last week, another bipartisan pair of lawmakers, Representative Josh Gottheimer and Fred Upton, rolled out a separate election reform bill that mirrored the Senate proposal, which was written by Senator Joe Manchin. Dick Turpin, the famous highwayman. That's right. And Susan Collins, of course. In bringing the Cheney-Lofgren bill to the floor, House Democratic leaders are sending a clear signal about where their caucus stands on this issue. Democrats are expected to be unified behind this measure, which will also attract some Republican votes? No, that's not how that works. Okay. "I support any legislation that will prevent another January 6th and strengthen election integrity." Yeah, but this isn't about preventing another January 6th. These people fundamentally don't believe in free and fair elections. How is this supposed to prevent another January 6th? The whole problem here was that these people were deluded into thinking that the election was stolen from the dear leader and that they then needed to engage in insurrectionary behavior. That's what caused January 6th. That's what caused the insurrection in January 6th. I don't understand how this is supposed to stop another January 6th other than like, okay, well, we can't stop the ceremonious process because like only one person objected, right? How are they even allowed to run after what they did to Al Gore? Yeah, well, here we are. No clue, my friend. Okay. Anywho. Yeah, this isn't going to stop another January 6th. These people fundamentally do not believe in elections that don't go their way. This paper probably worth going over off stream or whenever at some point. It helped conceptualize the lack of faith or respect for electoral processes. Interesting. I'll repost this in chat too. I'm gonna save this. All right. Let's brace ourselves, okay? Bartel brings in what he calls ethnic antagonism as a way to explain the willingness to break democratic norms. Basically, the higher the rating, the more likely they are to abandon the function of democracy. Jesus. Alright, let's brace ourselves, folks.
A new report suggests that not only could COVID have come out of a lab, it might not have even come out of a lab in Wuhan, but one in America. So what was all that certainty and censorship about 3 years ago? The story is changing.
What? Plus, Bartels is a brilliant academic, writes some great stuff. Yeah, I don't doubt it. You always have good sources. His source is the Telegraph, folks. I've seen a good Twitter threads from actual medical researchers breaking down all the problems with the Lancet paper. What is the Lancet paper? The Lancet paper said it was feasible that the SARS-CoV emerged from a natural spillover or lab incident, but elements provoked backlash. The Lancet is facing a backlash after a major COVID commission report suggested the disease may have leaked from a laboratory in the US. Suggested. That doesn't mean it's proof. Published on Wednesday, the paper said it remains feasible that the SARS-CoV-2 emerged from either a natural spillover or a lab incident and called for the introduction of more safeguards to reduce the risk of either eventuality. Wait, so... in this thing, it automatically says, it already says that it could also be a natural spillover. So why is he saying only this part? Yeah, suggestion, feasible, maybe, perhaps, sort of. Basically, they're saying they can't entirely rule out lab leak. Therefore, there's a lab leak because there's no evidence for it. Yeah, okay. That was like the original thing that was being pushed originally, but you know, more and more information so far seems to point in the direction of a just natural incident. But the report, the results of 2 years' work, also suggests that American researchers could be culpable. Could be. As well as mentioned facilities in Wuhan, it noted that independent researchers have not yet investigated U.S. labs. Wait! How do you know if you haven't investigated U.S. labs? Why would you make this accusation? Right, a scientist saying something is feasible does not mean the same as them saying it happened. That's right. Which is the problem, because that's what he's trying to point the picture.
A new report suggests that not only could COVID have come out of a lab, it might not have even come out of a lab in Wuhan, but one in America. So what was all that certainty and censorship about 3 years ago? The story is changing.
The story isn't changing.
Hello there, you 5.9 million awakening wonders. Thanks for joining me on this voyage towards unfolding truth in all of its complexity, with all of its nuances. Well done for staying focused. Well done for
Not a
staying
cult, by the
strong.
way.
Well done for staying connected. Now, I'm talking about the lab leak now and a new report about it. So I guess down there is the old misinformation, disinformation.
Because it is misinformation. That's not what it's saying.
I don't mind them putting that little link down there as long as they run this channel underneath the mainstream media news. Every time they put CNN there, they say, oh, this is what they're saying on State Free Media, just to give you a balanced perspective. I don't imagine they'll be doing that. So
Wait, State Free Media? Wait. Hold on.
Run this channel underneath the mainstream media news. Every time they put CNN there, they say, oh, this is what they're saying on State Free Media, just to give you
On
a balance.
State Free Media. CNN is not state media. CNN isn't state free media. It isn't state media. You're okay.
Perspective. I don't imagine they'll be doing that. So turn the notification bell on right now. Cling a ding 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 ding, so we can get you right in the phone hole whenever we need to chat to you. Now let's look at this.
What? Not a cult, by the way. Not a cult. Not a cult.
Emergent new report and how it impacts the last 3 years. Do you see how you're being invited to just forget about all that stuff? Oh, don't worry about whether or not lockdowns were effective. Don't worry.
We already went over that. This was such bullshit and so misleading. We went over this particular video and it's so misleading.
about the results of lockdown were actually more negative than positive when it comes to tangential or ancillary conditions. Don't worry about anything to do with the medications and their efficacy. Put all that behind you and focus on either the Ukraine war, which is a bad thing, it's Putin's fault, and also the Queen is dead, and there's no complexity to that either. You know, you're being invited to be dumb. We are not going to let that happen to one another, are we? We're going to keep each other smart.
Not a cult, by the way.
Into it. The Lancet is facing a backlash after a major COVID-19 commission report suggested the disease may have leaked from a laboratory in the United States. Published on Wednesday, the paper said it remains feasible that SARS-CoV-2
remains feasible. And furthermore, there is more evidence. There's more evidence that it was a natural, a zoonotic occurrence, than there is of this lab leak stuff. Here's a fun one. They found out why ivermectin was slightly effective. It turns out people had parasites. The ivermectin killed the parasites. The body could fight back COVID slightly better. Huh, that's an interesting one. They did a massive study on ivermectin. That, of course, none of these clowns decided to report on. That found basically that there was no real good use from ivermectin when it comes to treating COVID. It was a big study too. It was a big study.
Emerged from either a natural spillover or a laboratory incident and called for the introduction of more safeguards to reduce the risk of...
That is not the same as saying, as giving the impression that the lab leak has more credibility when it doesn't.
Either eventuality. So we're not saying that it did, saying that it's possible. But do you remember how much weight, freight, effort and strength was put behind? It come from that wet market. Look at that. Oh my God. Oh, have you smelt that wet market? They're down there, they're guzzling stuff down, it's drizzling down their chin, it's causing COVID. Would you crunch down on a bat skull? No, you wouldn't. They're different than us, they're COVID causers. Well, now...
That's not how that went down at all. I'd still say the zoonotic jump theory is the most plausible one because it adds up to other outbreaks and disease, but I suppose that there's also a weird convenience of a lab being in the same place. Yeah, but that's just the causation, not correlation kind of deal. But then again, biolab working on disease research is hardly surprising, and instead of exactly what you'd expect from them doing it, put down to complete coincidence, but I'm no expert in it. That's why I get why scientists can't completely rule it out. Yeah, but I would say that it's most evidence that we have so far points to the zoonotic jump. More so than this lab leak, and then to put the other layer of it that it came from a US lab too, that's just ridiculous.
According to the science that we're supposed to be following around everywhere like his little lab dog, we are seeing that it's feasible, that I mean likely, but feasible, possible that it came from a laboratory even in America. What an extraordinary development for those of us that are interested in genuine inquiry. But the report, the result of 2 years of work, also suggested American
Yeah, this is so garbage. I can honestly care less about its origin than the failure to handle it. Yeah, that's a fair point. I just don't like dishonesty. And this guy is just full of it.
Researchers could be culpable. As well as mentioning facilities in Wuhan, it noted that independent researchers have not yet investigated US labs and said
have not yet investigated US labs, so therefore you can't rule it out. What? Okay. The report comes as controversy swirls. The commission chair, the economist Jeffrey... Wait, this is chaired by economists, not an actual researcher regarding infectious diseases and how they work? At a conference in Madrid, he said that he was pretty convinced that SARS-CoV-2 came out of a U.S. lab of biotechnology, not out of nature, a claim that has since been widely promoted by Chinese diplomats. In August, Professor Sachs also appeared on a podcast hosted by Robert F. Kennedy, one of the world's most prominent anti-vaccine commentators, to discuss his beliefs just days before the Instagram had suspended an account led by Mr. Kennedy for repeatedly sharing what the platform considers misinformation, or especially around vaccines. Experts said Professor Sachs' actions have overshadowed much of the robust research and recommendations within the 58-page report and criticized the Lancet for resisting calls to remove him. Sachs' appearance on RFK's podcast undermines the seriousness of the Lancet Commission mission to the point of completely negating it. Said Professor Angela Rasmussen, a virologist at the Vaccine of Infectious Disease Organizations in Canada. This may be one of the Lancet's most shameful moments and regarding its role as a steward and leader in communicating crucial findings about science and medicine. Adding that she was pretty shocked at how flagrantly the report ignores key evidence of COVID's origin. Professor David Robertson of University of Glasgow Centre for Virus Research added that it's really disappointed to see such potentially influential reporting contributing to further misinformation on such an important topic. Yeah, so like the experts, like the actual virologists and like the dudes who, do research on this stuff are saying that, but that, yeah, I think people really don't grasp how many diseases and viruses that are attributed to zoonotic jumps. I'm sure the CDC has said as many as 75% of new emergent diseases come from non-human animals. Yep. It's true we've details to understand on the side of natural origin, for example, the exact intermediate species involved, but that doesn't mean that there's any basis to wild speculation that U.S. labs were involved. Right, so let's see if our friend over here is actually going to make a mention of that. Like the actual experts, the virologists and the people who study this shit are saying that this is ridiculous.
National Institute of Health has resisted disclosing details of its work. So, Anthony Fauci, before you retire, perhaps you could disclose some of these vital documents. There's no reason not to, is there? We're trying to understand something that's complicated, right? Isn't that what we're trying to do? Or are we not trying to do that?
No,
Tell me,
you're not.
Tell me the truth.
You're
are we
not.
just trying to ignore it? Are we trying to forget it and move on? If, as you have said from the beginning, we're trying to follow the science, accurately understand what's going on, so we can prevent more deaths, and this isn't about profit or power
Not a cult, by the way.
or introducing more regulation or centralizing corporate and financial weight, if it's not about any of those things, tell us what's going on. Why are you not disclosing the information? Oh, you thought that some of that information, if we disclosed it, would make you not trust the NIH? Well, here at the NIH, guess what we were doing? Yeah, we were arranging a surprise birthday party. COVID-themed,
Jesus.
admittedly bad taste, but for you, and because of your snoopy little snout, it's been ruined.
This person is not well. This person is manic. And
It's in Madrid earlier.
he's having like manic episodes in the middle of his YouTube video. Holy yikes.
This year, Professor Jeffrey Sachs said he was pretty convinced the SARS-CoV-2 came out of a
Professor Jeffrey Sachs. And this professor, right? Sounds pretty credible. Except he's not a professor in virology or anything anything to do with this. At all. He has nothing to do with virology or infectious diseases or anything of the sort. People actually listen to this guy, unfortunately. Unfortunately. He's like on the cusp of crossing 6 million subscribers. Yeah, people unfortunately listen to him. And what they're going to get from this is that they were correct this entire time about believing this conspiracy theory that it came from a lab, and that's it. That's all they need to know to reinforce their preconceived biases.
US lab of biotechnology, not out of nature. A claim that has since been widely promoted by Chinese diplomats. They would do that, wouldn't they, the old Chinese diplomats? Well, you see what Jeffrey Sachs says. Oh, it seems likely, doesn't it? Let's have a look at Jeffrey Sachs, see him saying it.
It may shock you or not shock you, or you may say, I already know that, Professor Sachs. But I chaired a commission for the Lancet for 2 years on COVID. I'm pretty convinced it came out of US lab biotechnology, not out of nature.
You're just a professor. After a couple of years of intensive work, why should we trust you because you don't have...
Because just because somebody has the name professor in front of them or has the title professor, doesn't mean that they're the professor in the field that they're claiming authority on. right? I mean, like 5 seconds of reading this, of reading the actual entire article that Russell Brand is citing himself. No, even worse, James Napper. He's an economist. He's an economist. He's so far, we're 4 minutes in, 4 minutes and 38 seconds in, and he has yet to disclose that little information here, which is in the article, by the way. It's right here. It's in the same article that he's citing. Reminds me of those old debunking evolution videos from doctors who are actually dentists. Right. Exactly. This is the exact same scenario right here. Discussions around the origin of the SARS-CoV-2 was only a small element of this report, and experts said the rest of the paper was based on robust research. Right, so like, this wasn't even like the main part of it, and this guy's citing it like a gotcha, like a yes, we found evidence.
Vested financial interests. Like, if you are determined to stick with the mainstream narrative, which could be in order to, as I've said to you before, underwrite increased state regulation, which has happened throughout the world. Numerous countries have changed protest laws, have sought to use big tech to spy on you more, or increase the profits of big tech companies and big pharma companies, which has also happened, or the massive wealth transfer that's happened over the last couple of years. So that's...
Okay, but this is a completely separate issue that we're talking about, my dude. We're talking about two different things.
Motive in that case. What's the motive with dear old Jeffrey Sachs? I mean, even though he's standing in front of something called the Gates Center, which I'm sure Bill Gates will, if he doesn't own it now, he will own it in a minute. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it's a broken clock syndrome, right? Where he says like obvious truisms in the middle of like these things, but like his entire purpose is just to crank and soften you to these conspiratorial ideas, and just soften you and massage these conspiracies, and then like you'll see videos of him like basically saying like, yeah, you know, the far right is okay. They're not that big of a deal.
What?
And next thing you know, like he's just massaging you into being like, yeah, well, maybe Donald Trump wasn't that bad, you know, maybe MAGA wasn't really that bad. Maybe MAGA isn't really that fascistic, huh?
Just to mention, after 2 years of intensive work on this, so it's a blunder, in my view, of biotech, not an accident of a natural spillover. We don't know for sure. I should be absolutely clear.
Wait, so then he says, we don't know for sure, to give himself plausible deniability. The fact that this kind of thing just swirls around and absolutely no major figures are talking about curbing animal agriculture and habitat degradation tells us that this will absolutely not be the last major outbreak we see. Oh yeah, 100%. Our dietary habits are always putting us one mistake away from disaster. Yep. It's more of an alt-left thing. I think we got our anti-vaxxers too. No, yes, but this is separate. He is pushing water. He's carrying water for the right. That's what his job is now.
That's also the kind of discourse that I want to be engaged in. Don't you think from the beginning it should have been that? Oh, we think it's come from a wet market. We're not absolutely sure. We think there should be a lockdown. We're not absolutely sure. This is what a scientific approach looks like. Some things are certain, some things are evolving and altering, and it's the result of a conversation. You can't use that kind of discourse as a weapon, or it is no longer science. I would say it's the same as religion. Like when religion is about why don't we investigate ways that we can be compassionate to one another and cope in this world knowing that we're going to die, religion is the beautiful thing. When religion becomes, you better not do that, you should shut up, we're going to do that, we're better than you, we're going to kill you. Now religion isn't such a great thing. Same with science. It doesn't matter what people say.
No, what? Same with science? Yes. Religion is absolutely like the same. It's the same thing. It's analogous, right? Not a cult. It's analogous to science, to scientific approaches. Because in religion. Okay.
They're doing
Because in religion, we take rigorous steps to ensure. And have methods of arriving at what we perceive to be like as accurate as possible. Yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, science is also not a coping mechanism.
What the results are of what they're doing.
But there's enough evidence that it should be looked into, and it's not being investigated. Not in the United States, not anywhere.
And why is that? Why is it not being investigated? Could that investigation lead to embarrassment? Could that investigation lead to the dominant narrative breaking down? What else could it lead to? Let us know in the comments below why you think it's not being investigated. I value your opinion, sincerely.
And I think for real reasons, that they don't want to look underneath the rug.
Oh, you don't want to look under that rug? Surprise birthday party. Can't do 2 in one video, it's excessive. When approached by the Telegraph, Professor Sachs stood by his previous comments, adding that he personally oversaw this part of the work on the emergence of SARS-CoV-2. Last summer, he disbanded an initial task force led by Peter Daszak amid concerns it was too biased towards the natural origin hypothesis.
Wait. He disbanded the initial task force led by this doctor, like an actual doctor. Amid concerns it was too biased towards the natural origin hypothesis. So are you telling me that he disbanded this initial task force because the evidence was leading to that conclusion? That's a good meme.
Task force led by Peter Daszak amid concerns it was too biased towards the natural origin hypothesis. We all remember that time. Let's just have a look at that natural origin hypothesis, which means that the scientific community, and in particular corporate science, isn't culpable, particularly as this could down the line present a huge opportunity for profit. So could we? No, but I'm just concerned that it could have come out of a biotech lab. Yeah, biotech lab. Look at all this market. Can anybody look at that fish? It's got eyes on the top of its head. They're eating it with a spoon.
Yeah, he's making a mockery of the idea that like this dude he literally put up a screenshot saying like, yeah, this task force was disbanded because it was biased towards the natural origin theory, which seems to suggest that they were finding evidence moving in that direction and he didn't like it. That's what it sounds like to me. And furthermore, like he's just mocking this idea to essentially get you to accept this conspiratorial thinking without like serious evidence behind it. And like, yeah, that's the whole point. There's no need to believe in science since they can just show you. Exactly. There's no faith involved in science. There's no faith involved in science, right? That's the difference.
Those dirty bastards. That's where it's come from. No, honestly, I think we should probably look at both and then we'll decide based on them. No, come on, let's have another look at, ooh, the stink, what's that? Oh. The question of a possible laboratory release mostly involves the question of US-China joint work that was underway on SARS-like viruses, he said. But Professor Peter Hotez, a member of the Lancet Commission and Dean of the National School of Tropical Medicine at the Baylor College of Medicine in Texas, said there's been diverse views and have pushed hard on removing mention of US labs in the report because it's a distraction. We don't want you getting distracted from the stinking...
Well, because maybe they couldn't find information regarding that.
Phil.
And furthermore, how the hell would a biolab leak here result in a pandemic that originated in Wuhan? Explain that to me. But make sure you explain it to me like in kindergarten.
Down that wet market. We don't you getting distracted from doing as you're told. We don't you being distracted from contributing to record profits at Pfizer and Moderna.
Or You keep bringing this up. We keep finding evidence. You disbanded the original task force that was being biased towards that because probably they were finding evidence more in line with the zoonotic jump theory, and you didn't like that. Maybe that's what that's what's happening. Furthermore, we're 8 freaking minutes in. We've got a minute left on this video, and we still haven't seen Russell Brand make a mention. Of any of the other virologists. And how about and how the other experts felt, like the actual experts doing the work felt. At the time of the letter, authors declared no competing interests, but in a statement published on its website, The Lancet said some researchers have questioned the validity of this disclosure, particularly when it relates to the one author's Peter Daszak. Peter Daszak has worked closely with Xi Zingli, known as the Batwoman, who leads work into bat viruses at the Institute. At the EcoHealth Alliance, which has been a world leader in hunt for animal viruses, has channeled some of its funding towards the Institute, which involves collecting samples from bats and people at the risk of infection from bat viruses. Earlier this year, Dr. Daszak visited China as part of the joint WHO and China investigation into how the coronavirus emerged. That investigation concluded that while a laboratory leak was a possibility, it was extremely unlikely, and the virus was most likely to have been passed from a bat via an intermediate animal host to humans before sparking the explosive outbreak in Wuhan. Yeah, so he was finding evidence that that was pointing to the idea of zoonotic jump theory, and I guess it didn't fit the narrative.
And increased ability of the state to regulate the behavior of its population. Don't just focus on that. Another fascinating story that gives us the opportunity to recognize that there is science and then there is science. There is the science of analysis of evidence and the presentation
No, there's only science. There is only science. If you can't repeat this, or if you're misrepresenting studies, or if you're misquoting people, or if you're, I don't know, pointing to an economist as an authoritative source on viruses and infectious diseases, then that's not science, my guy.
theories and, of course, hard facts that emerge from that process, and there is science, which is a kind of dogma, a kind of doctrine, a kind of tool of powerful people in order to create stories and ultimately bureaucratic measures that support outcomes that they are in pursuit of. So you tell me, which theory seems more plausible to you? Can you understand reasons why particular narratives might be promoted and others obfuscated? Let me know in the comments below what you think. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at either of these ones. They're equally good. Sign up to my mailing list right there and turn on the notification bell in case the algorithm turns against us. And as for that little bit of, oh, why don't you look on Wikipedia? Why don't you see what they've got to say? We don't mind you doing that as long as they put this video under the mainstream news. Stay free.
He's literally having like manic episodes on camera. That's literally him now. Yeah, all this is just to elevate the right, my friend. All this is to elevate the right. That's his that's his job now. He can't even go, he's an idiot because he doesn't understand it. It's not faith-based since he is a well-read, clever guy. Yeah, I mean, like, even in the own article that he was reading, like, you know, obviously, it didn't just say that, like, yeah, we have evidence to suggest that. Like, no, there wasn't even good evidence in that article. And furthermore, all the people that mattered in that same article that he cited, all the people that mattered, the virologist and the other guy who was like a professor of whatever, virology, they all said that this is like not the case. The guy he cited, or put the quote up was like, yeah, dude, we have to, you know, disband this task force because they were biased towards the natural origin theory. And then when you look into it, it's like, yeah, because he was finding more evidence than not that it was most likely due to a zoonotic jump. That's where the evidence pointed to in multiple occasions. Yeah. Oh, he 100% knows better, but you know, those sweet clicks. Look at that. Hundreds of thousands of views 6 hours ago and just already at 311K. Nothing is above the almighty dollar. Either that or he's genuinely losing it because he actually does, he actually does look like he's having like manic episodes. I'm not one to diagnose, but he should probably speak to somebody. You're making fun of a guy who's making fun of another guy. No, he's not making fun of anything. He's presenting false information. He's presenting information in misleading ways and conveniently not mentioning important information on the very same articles that he's citing. He's not making fun of anybody. And I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm taking him very seriously. Making fun would imply that I have no, like, actual criticism other than just making fun of him, which isn't true. He's doing a bit of a cult shit recently, offering seminars and whatnot. Yeah, like meditation garbage and all this stuff. Yeah, that's what I keep saying. Every time he talks, it's like, not a cult, by the way. That's where I got that from. Unbelievable. It's so frustrating because, like, not everybody, like, not a lot of people push back on Russell Brand, and he's perpetuating a lot of bullshit, and that really, like, that's not okay. That is not okay. pushing back against an eloquent comedian? Nah, that's scary. Oh man, he's neither eloquent nor funny. One last thing. Puerto Rico reels from Fiona with 1.3 million without power amid deluge and flash floods. Puerto Rico remains under tropical storm warning after Hurricane Fiona dumped more than 2 feet of rain over the weekend. More floods and landslides are expected on Monday as intense rains are expected to continue until at the end of Tuesday. Since Puerto Rico is still in emergency response phase following Fiona, the island is not in need of humanitarian aid yet, said Governor Pedro Pierluisi in a news conference on Monday. We do need help with first responders, he said, to adding New York Governor Kathy Hochul has already vowed to send 100 first responders to Puerto Rico. Pierluisi said Puerto Rico has 4 warehouses stocked with enough food and water to last during the emergency response phase, emphasizing humanitarian aid may be needed once the island enters its recovery stage. The governor is hoping to have an additional estimate of damages after tropical storm rains dissipate. On Tuesday, a press secretary for Puerto Rico to request a formal disaster declaration that would free additional resources to help the island with recovery efforts. President Joe Biden declared a federal emergency on the island Sunday, allowing FEMA to step in with emergency response resources. More than nearly 1.5 million customers lost power. As of Monday afternoon, about 100,000 customers have had their electricity restored, according to Luma Energy. Jesus. It's so sad. We'll keep paying attention to this story as well. All right, folks. I've got to get going. Folks, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It really does help us out. Join us Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. This is the chillest place to be for news and politics. And join us on Sundays for Sunday Fun Days around noon Eastern Time. If you guys want to help out the channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the Discord to keep up with the channel. If you see any wonderful folks with the little diamond icon, be sure to follow them. They are streamers, usually. Folks, as always, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow. We are heading out. Please stay safe. Please take care of each other. You have a good one, and one for the way. All right, send it to me, though. Send it to me. Send it to me. All right, folks. Hang tight. We're gonna go visit Hildebeest. Hang tight, everybody. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya. Jumping jelly jeans. See ya, everybody.